Ernesto awoke in his tiny shack and rubbed his eyes. In the dim light of dawn, he could see his 7 brothers and sisters sleeping on the floor. Quietly, he tiptoed around them toward a curtain that served as a door. Stepping outside, he shaded his eyes against the rising sun. Many other shacks just like his, made from scrap wood and rusty pieces of sheet metal, lined a muddy river. In Honduras, these places are called Los Boros, which means borders or the edge of the river. Honduras is the second largest country in Central America and the second poorest country in all of the Western Hemisphere. There are many villages like Ernesto's in Honduras, also called Los Boros. Seeing his mother washing clothes in the river, Ernesto approached her, stepping carefully through piles of garbage, trying not to cut his feet. He didn't own a pair of shoes. No one in Los Boros owned any shoes. He knelt down next to his mother and cupped his hands to take a drink of the dirty water. Farther up the river, another mother bathed a sick baby. Nearby, 2 girls tried to comb through each other's hair with their fingers. Next to them, their younger sister tied knots in a scrap of fabric to make a doll. No one in Los Boros owned any hairbrushes or toys. Even worse than the lack of shoes, brushes, and toys was the lack of education. Ernesto knew that if he could just go to school, he could have hope for a better life when he grew up. But there was no chance for that. No one in Los Boros could go to school because they didn't have money. In Honduras, each child is expected to bring his own pencils, notebooks, rulers, scissors, and other supplies before he can attend school. They also have to have a pair of shoes. Ernesto's family had no money for supplies like those. But then one day, something changed. A man named Ken Harrell came into Ernesto's village. Ken said he was a missionary and he started something called the Children's Gift Ministry to share the love of Jesus with people of the village. Everyone gathered around him to listen to this good news. Ernesto was especially curious to hear about a God who loved him so much that he sent his son. Then Ken said there was a special event at the Assemblies of God Church in the city, and that Ernesto and the other children could go. Some leaders passed out bracelets, and Ernesto put his on. He couldn't read the words on the bracelet, so Ken told him it said, "Con Jesús inicio mis clases," starting my class with Jesus. Ken said, "This bracelet is your ticket to get in." Ernesto and the other kids of his village got onto bright yellow buses, and as the bus drove down the bumpy, dirty road, the leaders taught them fun songs to sing. They sang all the way, laughing each time the bus hit a big bump and tossed the kids into the air. At church, the kids played games and watched puppets and clowns. They heard more about Jesus and how he loves the children so much. Then the kids were fed lunch. It felt so good to have a full belly. After lunch was even a bigger surprise. The leaders brought out boxes and boxes filled with bright-colored backpacks. When one leader handed a backpack to Ernesto, Ernesto looked inside and gasped. It was full of school supplies and more, including a hairbrush, a toothbrush, even a toy and a pair of shoes. Amazed, Ernesto asked, "Logré ir a la escuela? I get to go to school?" "Yes, Ernesto, you get to go to school," the leader said. Ernesto smiled and hugged his backpack tightly. "I get to go to school," he said. When school began that year, Ernesto put his new shoes on, threw his backpack of supplies over his shoulder, and got on the bus. As the bus rolled and bumped down the road, Ernesto knew for certain that God really loves him. Adults and kids in the U.S. cared enough to pay his way, and that showed God's love to him. "I get to go to school," he thought, with a smile on his face. And because of BGMC, Ernesto's life was changed forever.